7 parchment paper brands UK shoppers should avoid in 2026. Imagine this. You're baking a perfect batch of chocolate chip biscuits. The oven is preheated, the dough smells incredible, and everything seems ready for a flawless bake. You carefully line your tray with parchment paper, slide it into the oven, and wait. 10 minutes later, something's wrong. The paper starts curling. The edges darken. A strange smell fills the kitchen. When you pull the tray out, the biscuits are stuck, the paper has burned, and the bottom of your bake looks ruined. But here's the surprising part. It might not be your recipe. It might not even be your oven. It could be the parchment paper brand you're using. In 2026, many UK shoppers are discovering that not all parchment papers are created equal. Some tear easily, some can't handle heat properly, and others contain coatings that leave unwanted residue on food. Even worse, a few brands marketed as premium baking paper have been criticized in customer reviews for doing the exact opposite of what they promise. Today, we're revealing 7 parchment paper brands UK shoppers should think twice about buying in 2026. But this isn't about attacking brands. It's about helping you avoid frustration in the kitchen and making sure your baking turns out exactly the way you want. And trust us. Number 1 on this list has shocked thousands of shoppers. Let's start with number 7. Number 7, the budget roll that tears too easily. Budget baking products can be fantastic. Many shoppers across the UK rely on supermarket own brand items to keep costs down, especially during times when grocery prices keep rising. But sometimes saving a few pounds can lead to more trouble than it's worth. One of the most common complaints from UK shoppers in 2026 involves budget parchment paper rolls sold in discount supermarkets. At first glance, these rolls seem like a great deal. Large length, low price, convenient packaging. But once people start using them, problems begin to appear. The first issue is tearing. Instead of cutting smoothly, the paper rips unevenly. Bakers trying to line a tray often find themselves struggling to get a clean sheet. Instead of a flat surface, the paper ends up wrinkled or torn. The second problem is thin material. Many reviewers report that these budget papers feel extremely delicate compared to higher quality baking parchment. When placed on a baking tray, they can shift easily or curl at the edges, which causes food to stick. And then there's the heat resistance issue. Some customers claim that the paper begins to brown much faster than expected when used at high oven temperatures. While this doesn't always mean it's unsafe, it can certainly ruin the baking experience. The result? Cookies stick. Pastries burn. And cooks are left wondering why their recipes suddenly stopped working. For occasional baking, these papers might be acceptable. But for regular bakers, many UK shoppers say the frustration simply isn't worth the small saving. Which brings us to number 6. Number 6, the eco-friendly paper that doesn't perform. Sustainability is incredibly important today. Across the UK, shoppers are choosing products that claim to be eco-friendly, compostable, and environmentally responsible. And that's a great thing. However, not every product labeled green actually delivers the performance people expect. Some eco-focused parchment papers released in recent years have received mixed reviews from UK consumers. The problem isn't their environmental mission. The problem is how they perform in the oven. Several shoppers report that certain eco-baking papers lack the non-stick coating found in traditional parchment paper. That means foods like biscuits, roasted vegetables, pastries, sticky desserts can sometimes cling to the surface. Instead of sliding off the tray, the food sticks and tears when removed. Other reviewers say the paper absorbs grease quickly, causing it to become soggy during cooking. Now, to be fair, eco-friendly materials often behave differently from conventional coated parchment. But when people buy baking paper, they expect one thing above all else: reliable non-stick performance. When that doesn't happen, frustration grows quickly. That's why some UK shoppers say certain eco-parchment papers simply aren't ready to replace traditional baking parchment just yet. But the next brand on our list has a completely different problem. Number 5, the pre-cut sheets that curl in the oven. Pre-cut parchment sheets are supposed to make life easier. Instead of measuring and tearing a roll, you simply pull out a perfectly sized sheet and place it on the tray. Simple. Convenient. Efficient. But not all pre-cut sheets behave the same way. Some brands sold online and in supermarkets across the UK have received criticism for curling dramatically when exposed to heat. At first, everything looks normal. But once the tray enters the oven, the corners start lifting. Then the entire sheet begins to curve upward. The result? Food slides toward the center of the tray, and the paper no longer protects the entire surface. For delicate recipes like macarons, meringues, or pastries, this can completely ruin the final result. And there's another issue people frequently mention. Static electricity. Some pre-cut sheets stick together in the box, making it surprisingly difficult to separate just one sheet at a time. Instead of convenience, users end up pulling out several sheets at once. Not ideal when you're trying to keep costs under control. While pre-cut parchment can be incredibly useful when manufactured properly, some cheaper versions simply don't hold their shape in the oven. But if curling paper is frustrating, the next issue is even worse. Number 4. The brand that leaves grease marks everywhere. Imagine lining your baking tray with parchment paper. You place your food on top and put it in the oven. Everything looks perfect. But when the food comes out, you notice something strange. The grease has soaked straight through the paper and left stains all over the tray. This is one of the most common complaints UK shoppers have reported about certain mid-range parchment brands. Instead of acting as a protective barrier, the paper behaves more like a sponge. Grease from foods like bacon, roast potatoes, pastries, chicken wings quickly penetrates the surface. Not only does this create extra cleaning work, but it also defeats one of the main reasons people use parchment paper in the first place. Convenience. Quality parchment paper should resist grease and prevent oils from reaching the tray. But when the coating is too thin or poorly applied, that protection disappears. Many shoppers only discover the problem after several uses. And by then, the roll is already sitting in the kitchen drawer. Still, the brands we've mentioned so far have relatively minor issues. The next 3 on our list involve problems that have generated thousands of complaints online. And number 1 might surprise you the most. Before we continue, it's important to remember something. Not every bad experience means a product is completely terrible. Sometimes it comes down to storage conditions, oven temperatures, or how the paper is used. But when thousands of shoppers report the same issues, it becomes something worth talking about. And the next 3 parchment paper brands have received some of the most surprising feedback from UK customers. Let's move to number 3. Number 3, the heavy-duty paper that burns too fast. When shoppers see the words heavy duty, they expect strength. They expect a thicker material. They expect higher heat resistance. And they expect reliable performance. But surprisingly, some parchment papers marketed as heavy-duty baking paper have disappointed UK customers in 2026. One of the biggest complaints involves unexpected burning. Several home cooks report that the paper begins darkening far earlier than expected when used at temperatures above 200 degrees Celsius. For recipes like roasted vegetables pizza, garlic bread, frozen oven snacks, this can be a real issue. Instead of lasting through the entire cooking process, the paper may become brittle and fragile before the food is fully cooked. When this happens, small pieces of burnt paper sometimes stick to the food or crumble when removing it from the tray. Now, to be clear, parchment paper naturally browns in the oven. That's normal. But when it happens too quickly, it raises concerns about the quality of the material and coating. Some users say the problem appears especially when using fan ovens, which are common in many UK kitchens. Because fan ovens circulate hot air more aggressively, weaker parchment paper struggles to handle the heat. For something advertised as heavy duty, many shoppers expected much better performance. But the next brand on our list has an entirely different issue. Number 2, the online bargain brand with misleading claims. Online marketplaces have made shopping incredibly convenient. With just a few clicks, you can order kitchen products that arrive at your door within days, or even hours. But this convenience sometimes comes with a hidden downside. Unknown brands with big promises. In recent years, several parchment paper brands have appeared online claiming things like professional chef quality, restaurant-grade parchment, ultra non-stick technology. At first glance, the packaging looks impressive. The price is often attractive too. But many UK shoppers say the reality doesn't always match the marketing. One common complaint involves false sizing claims. Customers order what appears to be a large roll, only to discover the actual length is much shorter than advertised. Others report that the paper feels more like thin greaseproof paper rather than true parchment paper. The difference is important. True parchment paper